Welcome one, welcome all to the Tortillas and Takes podcast. You are on once again with your boy, Albie Shore, and we still dancing. We're still dancing. All right. Do a little dance, make a little love. Whoa. Get down tonight. Boom, boom, boom. Get down tonight. The Red Raiders move on to the Sweet 16, the men's basketball team, beating both UNC Wilmington and Drake. Yep, that Drake. Well, not that Drake, but Drake University, to move on to the Sweet 16. And so to talk about those two victories, as well as stuff going on in Lady Raider land, we got the people's champ himself, Jeremy Gillen. What's up, Jeremy?
What's up, Albie? How we doing tonight? Feeling good, Ready to talk about – I'm happy we're still getting to talk about basketball because, buddy, there was a moment where I thought we may not make it to the next weekend. But really excited that we're getting to talk more basketball. Really excited for the matchups that are coming up. We have lost the Cinderella stories pretty much, unless you look at Arkansas as a poverty case, given their starting conference. But absolutely. Outside of that, but no mid-majors left, no Cinderella stories. We are now stuck in Chalkland pretty much. And it's all the NIL's fault. That's what they're saying, Albie. It's all the NIL's fault. They're destroying basketball.
I kind of before we dive into tech, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, right? Like, so I saw Stephen A. Smith say this, right? He was like, if this trend of no Cinderellas continue, it'll be the death of college basketball, because obviously college football is suffering from it so much. The fact that 5 schools have a chance of winning a championship, college football is just in the dirt, you know. But what do you make of the fact that this year, not a lot of Cinderellas? I mean, we didn't see the 1, 2, and 3 seeds all made it to the second round. Only most of them still made it to the third round. All the 1 seeds made it. 3 of the 4 2 seeds made it. You know, they're calling it chalk madness. I mean, what do you make of that?
I'm not putting too much stock in it because it hasn't been necessarily. So I think about the Colorado State game where with like 2 seconds left, they got the lead and it was up to Colorado State to win that game. And they didn't play an inbound, and easy layup for Maryland to get the dub over them. But there have been opportunities like
was
that.
Was it easy? I mean, was it easy layup? People think it's a travel. They said travel shouldn't have been called.
I mean, wait, that was Maryland, and that was the
that was Maryland, Colorado State, where you hit that side high shot at the buzzer.
I mean, it's a travel, but when have they ever called that? Right.
It also don't call it. I'm tired of everybody being like, all right, I follow the rule of cool. I follow the rule of cool to a T. Right. I was watching the women on the women's side. Alabama versus Maryland's one of the best game I watched all season this year on the women's side. It was an incredible game. And there was a situation where it was the ref called out on Maryland and to give the ball back to Alabama, I want to say. And I watched the replay and I'm like, definitely looks like it should go the other way. But of course, Maryland had the lead. I want Alabama to get the ball back with a shot to win the game because that's cool to watch. I want to see free throws. I want to see the way it went. And so the refs did call play stands, which, again, I'm pretty sure it was out on. It was the other way. It should have been overturned. Doesn't matter. Rule of cool. Right? And I want the refs to take this in and always think rule of cool. Is it close enough to where I can call it the other way? I can call it the way that's fun for entertainment. All right? Rule of cool. And the rule of cool states that Maryland-Colorado State game, you don't call travel in that situation. Right? It wasn't egregious enough to call it traveling.
Yeah. In real time, but you don't see it. When they put it on slow-mo and every, armchair analyst, oh my God, he took that many steps. But in the real time, you're not seeing it like that. Right. So it makes total sense.
Anyway, back to the question.
If you're Colorado State, you should have played a little defense a little bit better there at the end. But
Next.
I think it's an interesting point. I don't think Stephen A. Smith is the authority on it or authority on college basketball at all. The 2 weeks out of the year he ever watches it. But I do think that it does raise the question of, because now you see, okay, and another thing is transfer portals open. It opens up Monday while we're still playing tournament games, or there's many tournaments still going on. Yeah, let's open up the transfer portal and then throw that chaos into the mix. But everybody's looking for a bag, and a lot of people are worth that. A lot of people are worth moving up to Division I. There's always been like this mobility of like really good D2 players, really good mid-majors moving around, moving up. But it has become a lot more saturated. It's become a lot more of a financial game than it has been a recruiting game. And I mean, you can argue that recruiting has moved into the financial world or vice versa. But I do think there's just kind of new dynamics to acknowledge, and it's going to be harder for, if that's the condition, if finance is the condition, it's going to be harder for some of these younger schools to have their players stay for the longevity. I remember seeing a tweet earlier today about the guy who from New Mexico, big guy. Is it New Mexico? Yeah.
Iguac or Guath or
whatever it is.
Freshman of the year.
All their fans are pissed because he was an unstarred recruit coming in, and he was like, "Hey, our coach took a chance on you, developed you, and now you're bouncing." And you're like, "I'm out of here, right? Thanks for nothing." So on the back end of that, I'm like, that does suck for college basketball, because there's these teams that give these kids this chance to develop. I mean, think about like Steph Curry. Like Steph Curry wasn't at a big in Davidson, right? And it's just like, would he have stayed there in this day and age? Probably not. He'd probably been moving on up. So it changes the landscape pretty dramatically. Is that a penalty? Maybe not as bad as people are making it out to be, but it does kind of change how things play out.
Yeah, I don't know. The Norfolk State coach actually had a comment about that, is how they've become glorified JUCOs, right? You recruit high school guys because all they want is an opportunity. They get that opportunity, they show themselves in 2 years, and then Norfolk State just can't keep up. You're not going to be able to keep them if a school like Texas Tech comes calling, or like Florida or whoever, right? You don't have an opportunity there. And so on one hand, I do kind of agree. I do kind of agree that kind of sucks, right? For those small schools. I don't, however, I will say this. NIL came to NIL became a thing in 2021, right? In July 2021. So this is the 4th year of NIL being a thing, right? And even if you want to say that first year, maybe it was too new, people didn't know, but this is, we were talking about 6-figure deals back with the Texas Tech 2022-2023 team, right? Like so this is at the very least, this is back when Mark Adams was the coach, we were still talking about those 6-figure deals, right? So and I bring that up to say, last year, if you remember, NC State, an 11 seed team, made it to the Final Four. We still got these upsets. Right. If you want to say, well, NC State is an ACC team, it's not the same. And mind you, last year there wasn't a huge amount of upsets either. Then so maybe you're saying I'm starting a trend. Okay, maybe. But like I said, it's been around for 3 years. And you forget that Princeton, little old Princeton, made the Sweet 16 just 2 years ago. Right. The trends that we are seeing, it's not, my argument is that we're really not seeing trends. Florida Atlantic made the Final Four 2 years ago. We're not really seeing these trends. San Diego State, Creighton made the Elite Eight 2 years ago. We're not really seeing these trends like everybody's stating. I think what's happening is that this year is more of a one-off, right? Last year, a little bit, it was less chalky, or it was a little bit more chalky last year, and then this year's kind of been a lot of it. But if we start seeing that trend, then maybe we can point to it. But right now, it's way too early to even say so. One thing I do want to say when it comes to this tournament is that the games have still been good. BYU Wisconsin was a really good game. BYU was able to pull it out at the last second. Arizona Oregon was a really good game, right? That went down to the wire. Unfortunately, Texas Tech UNC Wilmington was a good game that went down to the wire, right? Colorado State Memphis, and then Colorado State Maryland. Both games that were very close. Florida, I thought Florida was going to lose against UConn. I was hoping that Florida would lose against UConn, but they didn't. And if you, yeah. Let's say you let Dan Hurley tell it, he'll tell you that they should have won. and it wasn't their fault they lost, right? So I don't know. I think that I will say that this tournament is missing some buzzer beaters, missing some iconic moments so far, right? There's no DJ Burns in this tournament yet, but these things happen, right? There's some times where you're going to have a little bit more chalk, and there's sometimes where you have a tournament that just goes crazy, and it is what it is. All I know is that the Red Raiders are still in, and I'm happy for it. And so that really started off, like I mentioned, with that round of 16 game against UNC Wilmington, where our boy Kerwin Walton started off hot. You knew he was in for a big game. As we all know, Kerwin Walton either drops 20 or 0, no in between. And he started off hot, making 4 threes very early in the game. And in the first 5 minutes, it looked like we were going to run this team out of the building. Props to UNC Wilmington for saying that, listen, we've earned our way here too, and we ain't on some pushover.
I thought you cut out there for a second. No, it's something that we talked about. We had our guest on from Sidelines or whatever it is, talking about just really how comprehensive this UNC Wilmington team is. There's not really a standout outside of Nesby or whatever his name was. I hate to disrespect him like that. He played really well for them.
I was about to say, don't be talking about Donovan Newby like that. Come on,
no. Yeah. But a comprehensive team that in some ways reminds me a lot of Texas Tech, that took a punch and responded well in regards to relying on each other, trusting each other, and relying on their game plan. UNC Wilmington did a really good job at shutting down pretty much everything in the paint, which fortunately for us wasn't really a problem when we took 48 threes or whatever. But UNC Wilmington definitely played their game plan well and kept it close. I mean, 34 points in the first half, and then up in the ante of 38 in the second. Like, this was a team that wanted to win, absolutely. And it wasn't really until like the last couple of minutes where you felt like, Texas Tech pretty much has this one in the bag. UNC Wilmington, a lot tougher of an out than I think a lot of Texas Tech fans wanted them to be, but the reality is that the NCAA tournament, there's not going to really be any easy outs. These are all people as win or go home. So UNC Wilmington was definitely a team that wanted to prove their mettle and got a really good chance at doing it. And, whenever they tied it up, about 13 minutes left in the second half, 50-50, it was like, okay, the better team is going to come out on top, because this is the moment where it's like, okay, we are either a Big 12 team or we're just frauds. that was the moment.
Well, and so to that point, so we were up 16 in the first half, right? ESPN game flow probability had us with a 98.2% chance of winning the game. And that instantly went away, right? The end of that first half was not good basketball by Texas Tech. We started missing every shot in the world. And what happens is you live by the three, you die by the three. And that moment, we ended up dying by the three quite a bit. Kerwin Walton, and continued his hot shooting in the second half. I mean, he had an outbreak lead a little bit. He had 27 points in this game, right? All off of threes, and threes and a few free throws. But absolutely had an incredible game. The funny thing about it, though, is Kerwin Walton went 8 for 19 in this game from 3 points. He shot 42% from three. Fantastic. Amazing. Here's the issue. The rest of the team shot 18.5% from three. And Kerwin Walton wasn't the only one trying to shoot it, right? The rest of the team still shot 27 threes combined, right, and missed all of them. I mean, between JT Top and Darian Williams, actually I won't put Top in it. It's only tried 1 3. So, but between Darian Williams and Christian Anderson, right, they combined 1 for 12. 1 for 12. Christian Anderson, we can't have, especially with Chance McMillan out, right? CA being our best, off the dribble shooter, going 1 for 8 is that's rough. That is rough. And then I think what ended up happening is UNC Wilmington finally wised up towards the end of that first half and said, well, we can't let this guy Kerwin Walton kill us. We know we weren't keying on him in when we were watching film. We know we said he was a good shooter, but we didn't think much of him. Well, guess what? Now we got to think much of him. He's killing us. So we're going to key in on him. And you saw moments where they were like, hey, when he crossed the half court line, D up. When he gets to his spot, or push him off his spot, right? If you have to have his help defender on there, get to him, and let's make somebody else hurt us. Christian Anderson had all the ability in the world to hurt us, and he wasn't able to do so. I think, luckily, flip side of this, we made sure Donovan Newby wouldn't hurt us either. And I feel bad for Donovan Newby because in the final game of his college career, he didn't play well. He 2 for 10 on the night, 2 for 8 from 3, did not play well. We rushed him off the line quite a bit. And we also saw the film on him early in the game as well. And so, and he matched Anderson's lack of play there a bit, but it definitely got spooky in the second half. And then not only that, we mentioned in the pre-pod, and the game was close in the second half. You are now, and you're the higher seed, you're the road team now. That's what ended up happening, right? The fans that were there that were watching other games, right? UH fans that happened to be in Wichita, they're like, oh, yeah, go ahead and take that loss, right? If you're if you're a Gonzaga fan, you're like, yeah, baby, boo, Texas Tech. We remember 2019, right? And you're the road team. So actually, and I say that you're a road team, we got 2 teams there that have reasons to hate us already, right? You have 2 teams there that have reason to hate us, and you're the higher seed, you're the 3 seed that everybody wants to see the upset, and that's what ended up happening. That second half felt like a road game for the Red Raiders, and I think we put ourselves in that situation.
But thank God for Elijah Hawkins, because that guy, Elijah Hawkins has been just such a consistently great player for us. Big facilitator, big win. We talk about kind of the lesser of the game from Christian Anderson, and we'll talk about that again here in a second. But there's some context to that we've learned recently, and I'm excited to get to that too. But I think as far as kind of the tape of this game, I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of the issue came with just low percentage shooting, just uncharacteristically low percentage shooting from 3. Kerwin Walton, thank you for having your one of the great games of your career again when nobody else wanted to step up. Yeah, the greatest game of your career when nobody else wanted to step up. Definitely a Kerwin Walton moment. Reminds me of the graph that I can't remember who put it out, some basketball stats that was illustrating teams' kind of talent levels, like their anchor, if you will, and then where their ceiling is. So JT Toppin for Texas Tech's like, hey, this is your most talented player, blah, blah, blah. Kerwin Walton definitely at the bottom of that and was pulling us kind of further away from teams like Duke, teams like Gonzaga, who top to bottom have more talent. And Kerwin, I think, saw that and he said, you know what? Bet. I'm gonna rise up today. I'm gonna rise up. Anytime we talk crap about Kerwin, anytime anybody singles out Kerwin, he wants to go out there and be like, you know what? I'm gonna take off this kind guy demeanor. I'm gonna go do my thing. He hears us. So comprehensively, a good game. Defensively, not ideal. But I think that UNC Wilmington did a really good job, even though they had a little bit of issue facilitating over to Donovan Newby. They had other guys do really well, right? Bo Montgomery is somebody we were warned that would do well. Nolan Hodge there's nothing like a white guy off of the bench just punishing you from another team that just screams Texas Tech. But they found ways to continue to score and kind of keep in this game. Really didn't let you get comfortable until like the last minute when you're like, there's no way mathematically they can come back. But a really exciting first game for the Red Raiders, and one you definitely should have won, and you did win. And I'll say this: when it's March Madness, I don't care if you win by 1 or you win by 40. All that matters is that you won. Like, it doesn't matter at this point in the season.
Yeah. What do you? So I was actually surprised to hear people saying that Elijah Hawkins didn't have a good game. And I think a lot of that actually quite a few people did not think that Elijah Hawkins had a good game. And I think a lot of it stems from he was missing a lot of shots. We talked about all the players that missed shots. So I singled out D5 and CA for shooting 1 for 9. Hawkins shot 3 for 12. Shot a lot of threes, missed a lot of threes. And I think that skews a lot of people's minds, right? You shoot 3, and he kept shooting them, right? And so maybe the argument is that just stop shooting them. But I would argue everywhere else. I mean, he had 14 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds in this game. Was 1 rebound away from a triple-double in college basketball. Also, he's 5'10", really probably more like 5'9", right?
And didn't rest whole game.
Didn't rest. Played the whole game. 9 rebounds for the smallest guy on the court. And also, and I tweeted this, his intensity was incredible. Like, Newby had a bad game primarily because Hawkins was in his face the entire game. And
Reminds of the Houston
so,
game against LJ
yeah,
Cryer.
yeah. And so I say for people, field goal percentage isn't everything, right? Now it does matter a lot, Christian Anderson, but it's not everything. And Elijah Hawkins, who wasn't making it, went and did everything else stupendously. So I'd say this: if you're going to shoot 3 for 14 on the game, please don't. But if you're going to do what Elijah Hawkins did and almost get a triple-double in the meantime, right? I thought he played incredible. Thought he played great. Shooting is not his thing. It did bring me back to that tweet from that Minnesota account that everyone wants to bring up again. That was like, that says, one, they said, so the main thing that everyone brings up is that Gopher County or whatever it is said that he chose the bag over winning, and that Minnesota would definitely be a much better basketball program than Texas Tech next year, or being this year. And obviously that's wildly wrong. But funny enough, he doubles down quite a bit that day that he's tweeting and said that Texas Tech fans will learn that having a point guard that can't shoot hampers your offense. He was right about the point guard that can't shoot part. Elijah Hawkins is not a good shooter. He was wrong about the hampering the offense, because this is the best Texas Tech offense I've ever seen.
Correct.
So,
and a lot of it has to do with Elijah Hawkins' ability to pass.
Absolutely. So Texas Tech wins that game. Drake Bulldogs beat Missouri, which I did have in my bracket, them winning. So I had us playing Missouri or Drake in the second round. And, Jeremy, we didn't get a chance to talk about Drake too much. We talked about it a little bit in the pre-pod. We brushed up on him. We said how that the game would likely go. I think both of us actually might have had Drake beating Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. One thing we mentioned about Drake was that, they had some big boys. Some big boys we were going to have to worry about. We talked about Sturts, their star player. We said that, hey, we have to worry about Drake a little bit. And Texas Tech said, you know what, guys, this is a team that is going to crowd us at the three-point line. This is a team that is going to really play quick and play defensively. They're going to play hard, and we're going to have to really worry about them. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to just go inside the rock. We're not going to shoot any threes. That's what they did. They didn't shoot any threes. There are very few threes. All right. They said JT Toppin. Yeah, they said JT Toppin and Darian Williams, you are our two best players, and you are going to do what you do, which is get to the paint, get on the block. JT Toppin and Darian Williams combined for 53 points between the two of them. It was amazing. Great basketball. Just absolutely incredible basketball. And actually, if you add Elijah Hawkins' point in there as well, that's 69 of the 77 points coming from three players.
Incredible. Insane when you're thinking about, okay, no Kerwin Walton, no Kevin Overton, really no production there.
Bro, quick aside. I made a joke. I didn't make this joke on purpose in this way, but I made a joke that Kerwin either shoots 20 or 0, no in between. He shot 0 in this game. I did not even remember that when I made that joke. That's hilarious. Anyways, continue.
Natural comedian, Howie. But three guys creating pretty much all your points is incredible. On the one hand, you're like, wow, we didn't even include Kevin Overton. We didn't really include Kerwin Walton. Christian Anderson wasn't really productive. That this team can be so much more dangerous. But more importantly, this 1-2 punch between UNC Wilmington and Drake illustrates the masterclass of coaching that McCasland and this team has done, this coaching staff has done, to say, listen, everything we did 2 days ago, we're doing the opposite. And that's what's going to work against Drake, because Drake won't let us do what we did last time. And I like getting to watch the post-game pressers from Drake's coach. He admitted, he was like, listen, we wanted to take them off the three-point line. They didn't go there at all. They went inside. And so we put them exactly where they wanted them to be, high percentage, like the really low percentage jump shots, and they kept making them. And he was like, so we couldn't do anything. And I was like, you're damn right you couldn't. But JT Toppin and Darian Williams having just a field day inside. Yeah. I mean, JT Toppin had to have a good game for this to work, because whenever he and Darian were like shifting in and out, like their focus, Drake's main focus was on JT Toppin. And then Darian Williams would get inside. And then they're like, we need to double up on Darian, because like he's defeating us oh, well, here's JT Toppin again with his left hook. Like, oh my God. Like, I couldn't imagine as a Drake fan watching this, realizing the ball was going one of two ways and you couldn't do anything about it. Right. And that's just a master class.
You know what the backbreaker was? Tech at one point was, I think, 1 for 9 and 1 for 10 from 3. Right. We were really, obviously we weren't getting anything done. We were just going inside. And the backbreaker was with about 5-6 minutes to go in the game, Christian Anderson finally makes a 3-pointer. Yes. And it's like, oh, come on, guys.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But an incredible, you had mentioned it, you had tweeted about it, that we are seeing a range of Texas Tech's offensive ability that we just have never seen before. That we're used to, like, knock down, drag out, going to the bucket, getting those easy kind of like jumpers and layups, and like trying to get charges. That's what we were kind of brought up on in the Beard era, when we consider like your most kind of like successful recent era. And now it's like, no, we're really good at threes. But whenever you think that's what you got to defend, we'll get you another way. And it's like, this is very exciting. I love this because it shows that McCasland and Coach Linden have kind of cracked a code of a really comprehensive unit. And again, with not everybody contributing to this, like this was mainly a 2-man operation, and we've got talented guys alongside them. And so I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a really cool game, albeit kind of a lot more stressful than UNC Wilmington, because I wasn't sure we would win this, because Drake, again, DNA wise, was built to beat us. But we switched up the DNA. Pulled a Jurassic Park on them. Christian Anderson, looking just down. And, so I'll mention this now. Christian Anderson, semi-absent against UNC Wilmington, semi-absent against Drake. But in both those games, continued to shoot, which I really appreciate for the freshman in this first NCAA tournament appearance, being in the starting lineup, going out and just continuing to shoot. And I think that gives a lot of credence to Coach McCasland's pedagogy, Drink, about just going out and shooting. It's the same reason that Elijah Hawkins continue to shoot in both games, really, but especially in that first one against UNC and Wilmington. It's just like, if we're not shooting, then if we don't feel like, if we stop shooting, then we're losing that confidence, right? I don't mind Christian Anderson with a wide open look taking the shot, because we've seen him dominate with that. We've seen him create his own space against really good players. We know his ceiling is high. So even if it's not falling, man, continue to push that, because there is going to be one that falls. And like you said, when he got that last one for UNC Wilmington, both fans and players, it was like, well, damn.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. I would say, at 2 for 14, I love, right? We shot 14% from 3-pointers, but shot 54% from the field, right? We were able, just mid-range shots, paint shots, killing them with it. I think it's flip side, like where it's Elijah Hawkins shooting 3 for 14, where you're like, all right, relax. 2 for 14 for the entire team. This just means we're taking open shots, open threes. They're just not falling. But yeah, like you mentioned, shoot it when they're open. But yeah, 3 for 14 for one player. It's like, dude, let's chill a little bit. And for a while, it did seem like that for UNC Wilmington, that was going to be the downfall for us to win that game. But for the Drake game, actually, I thought we played much better against Drake than against UNC Wilmington. I actually did not, though I agree with you that Drake is the better team. I was a little bit more worried going into that Drake game. The way we played in the Drake game, I was like, oh, this team's locked in. We're good. We'll be sweet. And sure enough, we were. We kind of carried the momentum of that game, of the Drake game, into something that can be that we can carry forward overall. And so, and especially to your point, I give a lot of great credit to the coaching staff, because one of the things about the NCAA tournament is it's not talked about enough, in my opinion, is the second game. The second game, you only got a day and a half to play. Not even a day and a half. Your scouts, what usually happens is your scouts have already done the dirty work on getting film from Missouri and Drake, right? you may before the tournament, maybe you brushed up on them a little bit just in case. But you haven't said anything to your players. You have your players focused on UNC Wilmington, right? They're not going to be looking at anything else but UNC Wilmington, right? The night of the game, you and your coaches now get into a room and you study all you can about Drake. Everything you can know about Drake. And then that next morning, you tell your players, this is what we're going to do about Drake. And from that's all you get is that day and a half to get your players ready for this team. And that's it. The second day is the day where upsets are just as likely to happen because that second day is like, well, we barely had time to even prepare for this team, right? Mm-hmm. So now as we put our attention to Arkansas, where we don't have a day and a half, we have 4 days plus, 4+ days, almost 5 days to get ready for Arkansas, right? Get ready for Calipari. Get ready for these things. I had a friend of mine that says that he was a little worried about this game because Calipari would have 5 days to prepare. Let me tell you something. And maybe it's my ignorance. When it comes to legendary coaches, the Bill Selves, the Rippertinos, Roy Williams isn't coaching anymore, but Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, I get Dan Hurley. I get nervous because those are coaches that are proven to be guys that you give them time to prepare, they're going to kill you.
Yeah.
The only exception to this rule is John Calipari. And, and maybe I'm ignorant to it. Maybe maybe I don't give him the credit that he deserves. I think that his success is rooted on empowering players, which is incredible, right? He does a great job of empowering players from when you recruit them. When he gets first recruits, he's like, hey, you're an amazing player. We're going to get you paid, right? Here's the problem in 2025, John C., is that everybody gets paid in 2025. So the whole I'm going to get you to the league thing ain't working because everybody's getting to the league. This whole I'm going to get you paid thing ain't working because everybody's getting paid while in college. And so I think that's the reason why he struggled towards the end of his Kentucky run. I think that's the reason why he struggled this year at Arkansas. But it has been good seeing him. I think he's kind of gained that fire again because now Arkansas is getting healthy. And now Arkansas in the last month has been kind of hotter, right? They've been able to win some games. They're peaking at the right time, which is indicative of some John Calipari teams, most notably the 2013 team that was an 8 seed with Julius Randle that went all the way to the national championship game that catch fire around this time. So on that case, and when it comes to power, I am a little hesitant. But on the flip side, I look at John Calipari and I'm like, you're a guy that famously does not make adjustments, that famously does not have his players prepared well in certain aspects. So the 4 days thing doesn't worry me whatsoever when going up against a legendary coach like John Calipari, because unlike the other legendary coaches, that just hasn't been his forte.
Yeah, you noted UNC Wilmington grad John Calipari.
Is he really?
He is lettered 2 years. I just looked it up. I was like, I think I looked at that. I do agree with you to an extent. I think that, God, he was at Kentucky from 2008, 2009, all the way up until just recently, and did a lot there to kind of maintain those Michelin stars, so to speak, in creating that blue blood atmosphere for Kentucky and making them like the brand where it's like, oh, Kentucky's like a blue blood program, and they're always going to be in it. And he's a large part of that. Now, coaching wise, if a lot of that comes from, well, you got to kind of scrape together a bunch of talent. You got to you get a lot of benefits of being in that kind of atmosphere and that kind of conference and blah, blah, blah. Maybe you got a little exposed in the SEC this year. Maybe the SEC really isn't that good. Who knows? But the question does come down to The question does come down to, what kind of coach are you now, right? Because you can be like, I'm the ex-coach for Kentucky, but they bailed out on you, and now you're coaching for Arkansas, which is a completely different culture, completely different identity. You got different kind of players. Did he adjust in that, right? And that 0-5, that 0-5 start to SEC play, some people were looking at him being like, "Oh, dude, you're cooked. Like, you're so old. Like, you don't fit basketball no more, right?" Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm not disagreeing with that, but the less than stellar performance in the SEC has kind of been washed away by their survival in the tournament. It's just like, it's kind of surprised Arkansas is getting this far, and it's making people assess their roster a little bit more seriously. And you've got some talented dudes on the roster. I got 4 guys. They're averaging double digits. A lot of guys who are averaging over 30 minutes of play. They have a reliable team that definitely likes to play for each other, and those are dangerous teams in the tournament, right? First of all, when you're an underdog, and people keep saying you're an underdog, that's going to get under your skin. Second of all, whenever you did not probably honestly expect to get this far, not but like a month ago, now you have like nothing to lose. And those kind of teams are the ones that, they believe that they can do it, right? And so those are really dangerous teams. And when you put a mind, to wrap this back around, when you put a mind like John Calipari at the top of that, it can be a recipe of disaster for any opponent that they come up against. The caveat to that is Coach McCasland has shown us multiple times now that he is very much an adaptable coach. And I think he has a lot more recent skin in the game in terms of validating his coaching pedigree, because we look at McCasland and we say, that guy's a winner. Why? Because everywhere he's gone before Texas Tech, he has proven by the numbers that he wins. And each of those environments is different. Each of those environments requires different things. And bumping up now to the big leagues, to a Power 5, to a Power 4 conference, he continues to win. And I think for me, it's like, even if I'm looking at the two coaches side by side with how they performed in a new environment, I'm looking at McCasland saying, this guy has adapted a lot better. To your point, Albie, this guy's adapted a lot better to the Big 12 style of play, to what that conference requires of its roster, than Calipari had to SEC. Now, does that matter in the tournament when you're not playing SEC teams? I don't know. But I do think you're onto something, that the disadvantage for Calipari may be that he looks at his roster and says, you know what? We can do it. We're going to play our game, and we're going to go out there and we're going to beat them with talent. Well, buddy, Arkansas is not Kentucky. I hate to tell you.
Yeah, it's the old Doc Rivers, right? Doc is just like, hey, we're gonna show up, just keep doing what we do. It's like, well, Doc, you gotta do a little bit more than that. So obviously, history against Arkansas goes back ways to the Southwest Conference. These two teams playing. This is. I was told earlier today that this is the rubber match, but according to it's not. We do hold the upper hand on Arkansas right now, 40-39. 40-39. So we got to get the dub. We got to keep them away. Make sure that does not happen, or we take this loss here. Last time we did play the Arkansas Razorbacks was recently, though. It was in 2021, where Texas Tech lost by 2 in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. And the last 10 times we've played, or the last 4 times, have been 2-2 even, dating back to 2006. And the great thing about it, Jeremy, is that we trade off every time, right? 2006, Tech won. 2016, Arkansas won in overtime. 2019, Tech won. 2021, Arkansas won. So guess what that means? It's our turn, baby. So it'll be great to see us in the Sweet 16 in that aspect. To your point, to kind of call out some of the stars that they have over there, Thiero is coming back in this game. John Calipari, one of the Pat McAfee shows, he only played 15 minutes. One thing I'll tell you about John Calipari is he's a liar. So do not believe that he will only play 15 minutes. I do expect Thiero to play well in that one. But they do have some guys that have kind of stepped up in Thiero's absence, right? Knox, I think, has done a really good job. But most notably, with Thiero going down, Trevon Brazile has stepped into the starting lineup and done a really good job, averaging almost a double-double since being thrust into that role, right? Another really good players, and you kind of mentioned him before, but Boogie Fland, man, is a baller. He has really balled out since. He's a small guard, can really get to the cup, and a good shooter there. So you got to watch out for Boogie Fland. You got to watch out for Davis. You got to watch out for Wagner. They're very guard heavy, and they like to get up and down the court. They like to run it. This is an athletic team, and these guards are big too. Fland, Davis, Wagner, all of them 6'4", 6'5", big guards. So Hawkins is going to have himself some time with these guys, and Hawkins has been playing larger than life all season. He's been playing bigger than he is all season, so he's going to have another episode where he has to be that guy there. So it is going to be difficult in this game. I do think that it's going to. I think it's going to be interesting to see how we play it. I think Thiero coming back matters only because it now gives Arkansas somebody to match up with Toppin. However, though I will say that Calipari is a liar and that Thiero is going to play more than 15 minutes and to expect it, if I'm Calipari, I actually play Brazil a little bit more because I can't imagine a worse game for Thiero to have to come back from defensively than having to go up against JT Toppin, right? Brazil's been a much better defensive player. If I'm them, if I'm Arkansas Razorbacks, I keep Brazil out there. I keep, and I not just throw Brazil out there. I throw other guys out there like Adu, right? Who's a 6'11" senior. I throw make sure that he's out there too. Knox is a little a wing player that's played well defensively as well. I make sure that he's out there, right? Like for I think they're going to try to throw a few players at Toppin, but if I'm Toppin, I'm abusing Thiero every chance I get, right? Making him suffer. If I'm Darren Williams, I'm abusing Thiero. I'm abusing Flan every chance I get. And so to quell some of this momentum back and forth. And I expect us to slow it down and to go to another gear than what we had the last couple of games. Slow the pace down, slow it down, run some more sets, and really throw them off.
Yeah, not at all unreasonable to imagine that McCasland's going to do the opposite of what we've done in order to play our next talent or our next opponent with as much efficiency as we can. To your point, I think that when you look at this Arkansas team, they opened it up against Kansas, and that was a fairly one-sided, lopsided game until Kansas really kicked it into gear and brought it back into play. Really at a point towards kind of the last 5 minutes or so that I thought, man, Kansas is going to win this. Like Kansas is pulling ahead and they'll be able to kind of snuff Arkansas out. But Arkansas really rallied. And also, Hunter Dickinson missed so many baskets and just absolutely threw for the Jayhawks. So that was embarrassing. But outside of that, like Arkansas took advantage of those opportunities. And like you mentioned, this is a team that loves to get out and run. And they love scoring in transition. And they got the big guards to do it. Something we've done really well this season at a couple of different points is that we've took very fast teams and we've said, you know what? Nah, we're going to go slow. And it's worked. And we've done a really good job at stopping transition, right? So that's a big advantage for me. That St. John's game is the one that's going to be, I was surprised by, not because St. John's couldn't score because they're kind of a bad offense, but they allowed Arkansas to end up getting 75 points in the end. That's for me was stunning of like Arkansas kind of cracked a difficult code against St. John's. And do I think St. John's was a little bit maybe overseeded? In retrospect, I think I could say that as like maybe. But at the same time, Arkansas cracked their code and was able to play efficiently against that. Are they going to be able to do the same? This is a team that loves to score and loves to score quickly. So the issue may not be scoring. The issue may for Texas Tech may be defense. But we did a really good job against Drake. And that kid, Brandon Stillitz or whatever, fantastic basketballer. We held him pretty well under his averages, which I'm very thankful for. Also, a fun fact, Drake was 8-0 against the spread as underdogs throughout the year, but now they're 8-1, which was really fun. Fun fact, 8-1. That one will always sting. So Arkansas is definitely a dangerous team. And Arkansas has, I think, on paper, when you're just kind of looking at it side by side and with all the things you mentioned, it's like, I am personally worried that this game is going to come down to a buzzer beater or like this game's going to, it's not going to be comfortable at any point because Arkansas wants this win. They want this win more than anything. They've got really talented players who have become the best versions of themselves at the worst time of the season for us, right? This has been like now we're in the tournament. Let's play our best basketball. Those are the most dangerous teams to look out for. But they are seemingly built to keep us uncomfortable. And I'm worried that if our team isn't whole and complete, i.e., if we don't have Chance McMillan back, i.e., if Christian Anderson isn't healthy, which we learned that he was dealing with illness throughout the whole first and second round. So Kind of an illustration of why he didn't play so well. I get it now. But if we don't have complete health from the team, it's going to be really hard. Good news is, McCasland said today, pretty healthy right now.
Yeah, there is hope that McMillan will be back. That is, and McCasland is not as loud as Calipari is to make.
He will get 7 minutes.
Here, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how this game plays out. So, Jeremy, I need you to give me your prediction and why.
Okay, man, this is a great match for both squads because both squads are getting a healthy piece back in their team that elevates their team's play. With equal time to prepare. Man, I'm really worried about this one. The spread right now is like 5.5 Texas Tech. I think Arkansas beats that, no doubt. But I'm still very much convinced in Coach McCasland, and I'm very much convinced. So Arkansas played the same, like you said, Arkansas played the same brand of basketball against Kansas and against St. John's. It really didn't change. So I have a lot more faith in Coach McCasland to look at Arkansas and say, maybe this is the one way we can beat them. Let's do it. And for the team to rally around that because they've been coached like that their whole year. Then for Arkansas to make a dramatic change now and to change up the game plan for players that have not done that all season. So I think Texas Tech has an edge here, especially with all the guys on the team having tournament experience, obviously outside of Christian Anderson, but all the veteran guys on the team having tournament experience. Those guys understand the lights. Like, just because Kerwin had a 0 game last game doesn't mean he'll have that again. Just because Kerwin Walton only had a point last game doesn't mean that's going to happen again, right? Christian Anderson, if he's healthy, will likely hit more shots. And even having Chance McMillan on the floor elevates our game, right? It adds another weapon that Arkansas has to consider, especially as prolific a three-point shooter as he is, and also really great at driving the lane. So I give the edge to Texas Tech in this one, talent-wise, but also coaching-wise. And there's a really, really good point that you brought up about Calipari's kind of very specific brand. I think McCasland gets the edge here, especially since San Francisco is far as hell for everybody. So we're all kind of on the equal playing field of being stuck in the West Coast. I trust McCasland on the road. We some road dogs, and we have proved it this year. I put that faith in our team to be the road dogs. I think we win this one like 81-78. Like, I think that's going to be it's going to be real close. It's going to be like Arkansas goes down to tie it up, misses, we get the rebound, time runs out kind of thing.
So some key stats for this one. When Arkansas is on offense, Texas Tech has the better, excuse me, the better is better at holding their opponents to lesser field goals made and attempted than are typically Arkansas offense usually likes to run. Better 3-point defense than Arkansas shoots 3-pointers. Better even held their opponents to lower free throw percentage. Oddly enough, I don't know if your intimidation can do that, but that's what it says. Our defensive rebounding is better than Arkansas's offensive rebounding. Our defense against passing lanes and break up assists are better. Right, our assist to turnover ratio defensively is better. And then we switch it over to the offensive side of the ball. When Texas Tech is on offense, it all skews to our side, right? We are the better. Our field goal offense is better than their field goal defense. Our 3-point offense is better than 3-point defense. Oddly enough, again, I don't know how you can defend a free throw line, but our free throw percentage is better than their opponents. Our rebounding ratio is better than theirs, both offensively and defensively. Their assists is better. Our lack of turnovers is better. Arkansas is known to not really have that good of a defense, right? So we are better in many, many, many ways. There's a reason why Texas Tech is a 5.5-point favorite in this game. Now, there's been a lot of commotions about Arkansas being hot as of late. They've won 7 of the last 10. But you know what's funny about that is that Texas Tech has also won 7 of the last 10. The difference is that it's expected from us because of how we played all season, not as expected from Arkansas because of how they started the season. So with all that being said, I do think Texas Tech gets this victory. In my bracket, I had Tech making it to the Sweet 16. I didn't have. I had us beating St. Joe's at this moment, or St. John's at this moment. I still have us beating whoever beat St. John's, which is Arkansas at this moment. I like your. I do think Arkansas, who's 7-2-1 against the spread, will cover. So we're 5.5 point favorites. So I like your prediction of 81-78. I'm gonna take it 10 points lower and get 71-68. So I think we win because our defense is going to be there a little bit more. So nice. So yeah, no, I think both you and I have Texas Tech in the Elite Eight for the first time since we were in the national championship game. But either way, I think it'll be a good game out in San Fran. And bright side, I do think Calipari will now view this as a successful first season in Arkansas, because up to the tournament, I don't think many people would have categorized that. But I think getting Arkansas to the Sweet 16 in his first year is successful for him. So at least a good start there. But prayers that it ends here in the Sweet 16. So some extra points here, and I get all my extra points by going to extrapointsmb.com. Our former boss, Jeremy, Matt Brown, this is his newsletter. It's pretty good, so make sure to give it a read. He's a friend of the pod, friend of the 1012 Network, so make sure to give it a read. And if you like some of the articles there, subscribe to it, right? Right? We like independent journalists here, and Matt's still putting up the good fight. On the other side of things, chalk. We talked about chalk at the beginning of the podcast. The number 1 seed Florida going up against 4 seed Maryland. Both of them barely surviving. In an alternate universe, this game is UConn versus Colorado State. If I had it my way, it would be UConn versus Colorado State.
That'd be such a cool game, honestly.
I don't even that. But also, I want my path for Texas Tech to be as easy as possible. I saw somebody saying the other day that, like, oh, Texas Tech, you played nothing but higher level seeds. Yeah, and I don't care. You know how great it would have been if our route to the Final Four was 14 seed UNC Wilmington, 11 seed Drake, 10 seed Arkansas, and 12 seed Colorado State, and then Final Four. It'd be amazing.
Double digits all the way, man. That'd have been nuts.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Everybody, so you're frauds. I'm like, oh, hey, screw you, buddy.
Listen, man.
There's no fraud. There's no fraud in the Final Four banner.
That's right.
Very much. So should be an interesting game there. I've actually been very impressed by Maryland all season. I had them also making it to the Sweet 16. So I think they're a good team. And actually, when I was filling my bracket, I thought at the time, and I still do think now, Maryland has a really good shot of upsetting Florida. Really good shot at it. They're a pretty good team. Now I did pick Florida to win. And I don't know where your mind goes on who Texas Tech's next opponent might be, but what are your thoughts there?
I think in my bracket, I picked Maryland to upset. Actually, I picked UConn to upset Florida, and then Maryland to beat UConn. So I was close. I got kind of excited.
Oh, look at you!
UConn was definitely built to beat Florida. There's, some shots didn't fall. So this matchup is really interesting because Maryland's a different team than UConn, obviously, but they've been playing super well at the end of the season, especially. When we talked about it early, when we're doing all the bracket stuff, it's like Maryland's an impressive team. And it's one of the more shocking teams that you don't think about at all. And then you go back and you're like, this team has actually performed at a high level all season. Right. So I do think that Maryland it's just going to be a really good game. And you can look at both of them and be like, damn, they both just survived a lower seed, but either they're both frauds or neither of them are frauds. And it's like, I don't think there's one way or the other. I think it's going to be just a very close game. I think analytics and everything has probably Florida edging them out. And I know Florida's got the money line right now, or it's got the betting line right now, but Maryland,
also 5.5 point favorites over Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland is. I don't think Maryland cares about that, right? Because they're a 4 seed and they've earned that 4 seed. So I think that they're going to give Florida everything that they can. And so if Maryland comes out in front, don't color me surprised, because Florida's been like my most weak number 1 seed. I'm like, I don't trust Florida as a number 1 seed compared to the other ones. I don't think so.
Well, to your point, I agree wholeheartedly in that Maryland is a really good team and they're an underrated team. Derek Queen is a beast. He's so good. Florida's going to have their handful with him. Just like if Tech ends up having to play Maryland in Elite Eight, we're going to have our hands full just as much. So my last question on this to you, Jeremy, is does Texas Tech make it to the Final Four?
I say yes, man. I say we are built for it. I say that we've got a really nice path for it. Hey, we didn't have to play Gonzaga in the second round. We don't got to play Duke. Like we got it pretty easy compared to some Big 12 brethren. I think that we have a clear path to the Final Four, but in both scenarios, like I mean, in both, you gotta game plan against Arkansas, and you're gonna have to beat a really good Maryland, probably Maryland team, or Florida. But like, this is where the rubber starts to hit the road, right? Where it's like, this is when everybody starts to really perk their ears up of like, how good is Texas Tech? And I think that this team is built for it, right? This is the perfect time of year to get everybody back, get everybody, everybody's on board. And with a coach like McCasland, who likes to win, I am most confident about our Final Four run this year.
I am too. I had Tech going to the Final Four in my bracket. I'm still consistent in it. I still think that Texas Tech can beat who I had as Florida, and I have Florida beating Maryland barely. I do think it's going to be very close. I do have Florida beating Maryland. I think Texas Tech is going to beat Florida in the Elite Eight. I think we're the best. I was of the opinion, seeing when our bracket came out, that we had the team that could go all the way to the Final Four, and I still believe that. And I saw the tweet today. We're recording this on Tuesday evening, and that the tweet was that our guys leaving the state for the last time, right?
Mm-hmm. And that was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one because the Final Four is in San Antonio. So no matter what happens, we're not leaving the state again. I think that mindset is we got to get to San Antonio. We're gonna go far. We had to go a little bit of a ways to Wichita, Kansas. Shout out to Joe Lopez, had to make that drive. Go a little bit ways to Wichita, Kansas. We're gonna go even further out to San Francisco. But if we can survive that, and you kind of mentioned it, right? Which is funny because technically we're the closest school of the remaining 4 schools to San Francisco. Yeah. It's Arkansas, Maryland, and Florida. Nothing says West like Texas Tech, Arkansas, Maryland, and Florida. But if we can win these next 2 games, San Antonio. And I know Houston, the Cougar fans are very excited for that because it's a 3-hour drive from Houston. I get that. Cougar fans, you should be excited for that. But let me tell you something. Y'all ain't Tech fans.
It ain't a home game for you. Yeah, it ain't a home game.
Let me tell you something, buddy boy. Don't let it happen. All right. So us getting to the Final Four would just be absolutely insane. It'd be amazing.
How good would it be to have a national championship against Houston with a healthy team,
buddy?
How good would it be to have the penultimate Big 12 rivalry, Houston versus Texas Tech? Obviously, the hottest rivalry in sports.
If we meet in the national championship game, it's a rivalry. I'll stamp it. It's a rivalry at that point. There's no way around it at that point.
It'll be official.
Yeah, it'll be official.
They'll get what they want.
Because either they will perpetually hate us forever and ever and be an annoying, nagging side, or we will hate them perpetually forever. People still hate Virginia, right? And we have no other ties to Virginia.
That's right.
It's buddy. I tell you. You and I may need to make some plans to head out to San Antonio next weekend.
Right, man.
That's right. So flipping sides here to the other basketball team in Texas Tech, the Lady Raiders, who have gone on a run. The Lady Raiders have gone on a run. And I know you may be saying, wait, why the hell are the Lady Raiders still playing basketball? Their season was really bad. I don't know either. The WBIT invited them to a tournament. I definitely thought the season was going to be over, but we were invited to a tournament. So the lady said, hey, and I think, if you ask me, I think a lot of it stems from the fact that we won 2 games in the Big 12 tournament, and we actually came really close to making it to the semifinal, even in that quarterfinal loss. Played well enough, and WBIT was like, you know what? I like the cut of your jib. We're going to make you a 5th seed in our bracket and see what you can do. You have first game on the road at Wyoming. See if you can beat that Mountain West team. We're on the road. We're not going to give you much credit to do so. And you know what? We went out there and we stomped them 65-48. Beat them. Had girls boohooing. Right? It beat them so bad that they were like, let's call some timeouts and get some players out of here. Hey, girl over there that never gets to play that's been here for 4 years, get in the game.
That's right.
Girl over there, That's how we kind of in second quarter held them to 6 points, third quarter held them to 8 points, right? And that's how you get it done, right? Outscored them in 3 out of the 4 quarters. The one quarter we didn't outscore them. The first quarter we were only down by a point. Just absolute great showing. Jazz Shavers in that game led the team with points, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists for her. Sorry, that was for Bailey Maupin. For Jazz Shavers, had 17 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals themselves. So the big two combining for 34 points. Kyla Freelon also showing up in this game, 10 points, 3 steals, 4 rebounds. Overall, very good game. So now you're in a situation where you're like, oh man, we won 3 out of our last 4. Oh man, but now you're playing Virginia Tech, a really tough team. Like this is all right. This is where we die. Like there was a chance we could beat Wyoming. There was always a chance we could beat Wyoming, but Virginia Tech's the number 1 seed in the region. We're like time to pack it up and go out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not so fast, my friend. Texas Tech goes out on a big lead at the end of the first quarter, right? At halftime, they're up double digits, right? Up 36-24 at halftime. And you're like, well, what's going on here? And they held serve that entire second half, withheld some Virginia Tech rallies, and won the game 69-59 behind Bailey Maupin, who's hurt 23 points. We're going to ignore all the turnovers she had, but 23 points in this game, right? Jazz Shavers, 16.7 rebounds in this game as well. Again, the big two, the dynamic duo showing up when we need it the most. And now they go on to the next round, right? The WBIT quarterfinals, where they are going to be playing Florida in this game. Once again, we're going to be underdogs. Once again, we're going to be on the road. Once again, people are not going to expect us to win. But, and this is a game that's going to be on Thursday evening at Florida, which is kind of funny because Texas Tech has an opportunity to beat Florida twice in one weekend, potentially. And so, yeah, amazing. Jeremy, Texas Tech, Lady Raiders have now won 4 of the last 5 games. Where the hell has this team been all year?
No clue, man. The fire and the cohesive team play has just been dramatically absent for the entirety of the conference season. But now, like you said, I mean, huge showing early on against Wyoming, and then beating a number 1 Virginia Tech seed. That was the kicker. I was like, hold on, this is kind of good. Now getting to play Florida, who is, I think, the 3rd seed in that in the WBIT. But like they are, I mean, it confounds the mind because they haven't had a really terrible season in the conference play. Really great non-con. We got excited, and then as soon as conference play started, it was like repeat. It was a broken record, right? We just played terribly, couldn't buy a win. Burn the program down, right? But now that we're in WBIT, which why did we get invited to that? Still don't know. We're showing up and we're showing out, and so it's really cool to see these ladies, especially as they're getting prepped. Some of them getting prepped for the last season, their senior season next year, having some momentum, right? You want to see this like big push. Hey, you know what? Go out and win it all. Go out. I guess they'll probably play Gonzaga next or whoever that is, and then ultimately probably play James Madison for the title. Go out and get you a WBIT national championship. Why not?
We gonna hang the banner. Damn it.
We'll hang the banner. It still counts.
So it still counts. I will say
Oklahoma State fans.
Yeah, for the NIT showing.
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna get one.
I did see that graphic, or Big 12 put out a graphic for all the teams in the Sweet 16, and somebody else was like, "And Oklahoma State."
The gang's all here.
The gang's all here. The Lady Raiders did take a big loss today. Leah Chavez, the number 1 player in the last 2 classes. She's that good from Monterey High School in Lubbock, Texas. She had a final 6, but let's be real. Anyone who has been paying attention knows she had a final 3, which was Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas Tech. There was some obvious Texas Tech ponied up the NIL offer, right? It was obvious we were going to do so. It was obvious we needed it, and we desperately tried to get her to stay home. We were absolutely in the running. Anyone who says that we were not is just assuming we weren't because of and honestly, the assumption is valid, right? This is a team that is before winning 5 of our last 6, we were staring at a 14-16 record. So I get it, right? But that being said, we were in it till the very end, and she chose to go to Oklahoma. She committed to Oklahoma today. She will be there with the Sooners. The Sooners have a pretty good team, right? This is a team that has always been average to above average as a program. Nothing too special, but recently they've been a little bit better than above average. They knew they had to in the SEC. SEC is the best women's basketball conference in the country. They knew they had to step it up a notch, and they played a really good season this last couple of years. They like to go fast. They like to run and gun. Elia Chavez does too. It fits her game. It fits her style, and she is going to be a star at Oklahoma. It's going to be reminiscent of somebody compared it to Trae Young, who also used to live in Lubbock and also went to Oklahoma. And I'm like, yeah, I could see that for sure. Next year also, I think Leah Chavez will have the opportunity right from the very beginning to be a freshman phenom a la Juju, because Juju just went down with the torn ACL. Paige about to go to the WNBA. We're not going to have Paige or Juju next year. Guess who's going to get the opportunity to fill in that void, right? Or Hannah Hidalgo. Hannah Hidalgo is also graduating. So who's going to be able to fill that void? It's going to be Leah Chavez for the Sooners. Unfortunately, it's not for Texas Tech. And I tweeted this out. Krista Gerlich is officially on the clock. She's officially on the hot seat. I know it's weird that a commitment would cause this, but a commitment is what we've been waiting for. And let's face it, if Leah Chavez would have chosen Texas Tech, I wouldn't have said she's on the clock. I would have said, okay, we got to give her, let's see what she does with Chavez. But she is officially on the clock. It's the one saving grace you had is now gone. I'm not saying, obviously you don't fire her immediately, but this is now a situation, Jeremy. And whether you want to say it's fair or not or anything like that, or, hey, how could you expect this off of a team that was one of the worst in the Big 12? I don't care. This is year 6. You have Bailey Maupin, a ESPN 4-star player, ESPN top 150, and a 4-star player that committed to your program 3 years ago. Jazz Shavers, an ESPN 4-star recruit that committed to your program years ago. Logan Johnson, an ESPN top whatever player that committed a couple years ago. You have Kyla Freelon, who wasn't an ESPN top player, but was one highly, highly sought after recruit. You have 4 top recruits. Maupin and Johnson are 2 of the best recruits we've had since Marsha Sharp. Like, that's how good they were. I remember when Bailey Maupin was getting recruited. I was like, my God, great job. This is before NIL, right? So if we talk about this program where you're able to get those players, right? You have one of the best NIL programs for women's basketball in the country. Every single player on this team makes $25,000. Very few programs can say that about the women's basketball programs across the country, right? And that's without the deals that Maupin and Shavers are getting outside of that, right? You have one of the best facilities for women's basketball in the country, right? A lot of programs, let me tell you something. Some programs, they split up men and women's basketball. So you look at the facilities, like, man, men is great, but women. Duke doesn't do that anymore. They used to, right? But some programs in the country do split up men and women. Kansas. They do, or Kansas used to. I don't know if they still do. All right, Andy, before you come at me. All right. But the women's side get access to that incredible Womble Center. And so you have the NIL, you have the facilities, and you've been able to recruit decent players, right? A lot of people that don't know will say, well, our players are stink. No, they don't. They don't on paper. On paper, the players actually should be pretty good. So what's up? What's up? What's going on? And so, sorry, Krista, I'm going to say it. She got to get to the tournament, Jeremy. She got to get to the NCAA tournament. I know that I'm asking for a lot. I know that I'm saying much in something that we haven't even sniffed or come close to. We ain't even been on a bubble in her 5 years here so far. But she would senior year Bailey Maupin, senior year Kyla Freelong, senior year Jazz Shavers, junior year Logan Johnson. You got to get to the NCAA tournament. Or what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? I agree. I think that, Aaliyah Chavez comes to Texas Tech or not, like Chris the girl, like, you got to show us something. And it's really, it is absolutely nothing personal. Like, it's all about, like, you've been here long enough to show measurable success. And you kind of had the first 2 years, it was like, oh, we're starting to look really good. Like, we're really taking a step forward. That second year, we felt primed to move on to, like, okay, in the era of coming to the tournament again and again and again, like I feel it right there. And just regression with really good players, like better players than we are used to having. And so the question then comes down to like, okay, if the players aren't the issue talent wise, it's got to be coaching. Like, what are we not doing? Because now you're in the WBIT and you're beating good teams that will kind of be middle of the road, maybe in the Big 12. It's like you're beating them down, and the teams in the middle of the Big 12 you were losing bad against. And it's like, what's the switch up here, right? So I agree. I think that the clock is ticking. This year, it just in terms of like you're really at the end of a lot of people's patience. There are people who have advocated for her staying for this next year. Aaliyah Chavez's decision was definitely dependent or like a part of that. Kind of like, okay, if we get Aaliyah, then obviously you can't get rid of a head coach. But now that Chavez decided to go to Oklahoma, it's like, well, you still have the players that you've recruited. Like nothing is different. You don't get, the thing is different is that you don't get bailed out by number one consensus all player, right? You have to like lie in the bed that you've made. And that can be a really good thing if you have an amazing season. But if you're unable to kind of put those pieces together in a different way that's going to result in success, then you just got to go, because like this team will not get better if we don't change something.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that softball is showing us the blueprint. Now, I'm not.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I know if it was just so easy to just find the best player in the sport and just pay her a lot of money to come over.
That's right.
Hey, AZ Fudd, I know you just committed to another year at UConn, but what if we gave you 1.5?
That's right.
To come over to Lubbock. But I will say this, all right, and I'll say this, and what I mean by softball showed us a blueprint. They said, hey, who is the best potentially available coach in the sport? That guy out in Louisiana? Cool, go get him. Yeah. Whatever it takes, go get him. And we got him. All right, great. Who is the best potentially available player in the sport? Oh, her? Go get her. We got her. Who can we surround her with to really make a charge at this? Them? Great. You know who actually also did this blueprint? TCU. TCU did it. They already did it.
Yeah.
TCU went out and got name redacted. They went out and got a couple other players. And then they said, hey, Haley Van Lith, we know you had a tough season at LSU. Come over here and resurrect your career. And she's done that, right? TCU's already showed the playbook. So it's not – I mean, they did it in 2 years. You forget, TCU was as bad as Houston a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And they're already a number 2 seed in the dang tournament. Top 10 team in the country. A national championship contender. Like in 2 years, 3 years. Like, and because they had a desire to do it. So, so sorry. This whole takes 6 years for you to get it right. We can't rock that way.
That ain't anymore. Right. No, that ain't right.
Right? This internal local politics nonsense, we cannot rock that way anymore. We cannot. So the goal from now on, the bar should be the NCAA tournament. I recently put out the ranking of all of our programs. And one thing that actually even surprised myself was how many of our programs are championship contenders, not conference championship, national title contenders. The men's and women's track team are competing for national championship as we speak. The men's basketball team is competing for national championship as we speak. The women's golf team is also really good, competing for national championship. Definitely a conference championship for sure, right? Soccer is in a situation right now where they're saying, forget the Big 12, we can compete with the likes of North Carolina and winning a potential national championship. These are teams that are contending for national championships. So all these other sports, volleyball, women's basketball, baseball, the tournaments should be the floor now, right? And I know it's kind of wild to say. I know Jeremy, when you and I first started, that was our joke of like, Tech fans, they always want to win championships. We ain't even there yet. Well, guess what? We're there now. We're there now. The program as it is, we're there now. We are now at a point where we should be competing, right? Football is even talking about it. They're saying we were one game away from the Big 12 championship game. We got to get better. Making a bowls is not enough anymore in football. We got to get better. So, Lady Raiders, I'm sorry. We got to get better. It's not enough. It is not enough to just, oh, yay, WBIT. We had to pull. It's not enough. You got to get to the tournament. And the fact that we've only been to the tournament, once, twice since Marshall Sharp left, that's wild. Mind you,
Dismal.
we went 15 years going to the NCAA tournament. We all remember we always like to talk about the 91 team and the national championship team that they brought. We went 14 years after the 91 team of going to the tournament every single year. We were the most consistently dominant team in Texas in the Southwest Conference, and then we became the most consistently dominant team in the Big 12. We were there. It was Baylor's going to get their licks in, Texas going to get the licks, but Texas Tech's going to be right there fighting. The Lady Raiders were the ones that were packing out the USA. And I just want to get back to that. So this 6 years of WBIT, WNIT nonsense, you got to stop here. You got 3 of your star players going into their senior year. Mind you, they should have been going to the NCAA tournament their sophomore year. Last year, they should have been in the NCAA tournament. They're going to their senior year, and it's going to be an absolute shame that Bailey Maupin and Jazz Shavers don't sniff an NCAA tournament. That's ridiculous. We got to get there, and if we don't, I will be as if you've been listening to our podcast, you know, Jeremy and I have been some of Chris Gurley's biggest supporters. Eventually, you got to call a spade a spade. If you don't get to the tournament next year, I'm sorry. I got to cut the ties. We got to be looking for another coach.
That's right.
All right, I'm off the soapbox, Jeremy. Anything else you want to say to the people?
I think you said it all, Albie. You're right. Basketball.
Yeah, it's not like any other team sports going on right now. Well, softball's going on. Softball's playing really
Softball's
well.
going on, and we'll make that switch whenever we win the Natty. We'll start talking about softball. We'll get some real serious episodes out there.
Softball only.
With a ticker about baseball's abysmal performances.
Baseball did come back and win against Tarleton State today. They were getting blown out by Tarleton. Yeah, they were getting blown out. They weren't just losing. We was getting rocked by Tarleton State. We made a comeback. And that's where we are.
We're 4-2 in conference.
Comeback. Yeah, well, when we play, you get a series against Houston.
That's right, baby.
You're gonna have a big
school.
Yeah. So, well, with all that being said, Texas Tech's going to be hopefully making a trip to the Final Four. If that's the case, listen, Jeremy and I got to make it down to San Antonio for sure. So, Red Raiders do play Thursday and Saturday. So be there, do not be square. So for the People Champ that is Jeremy Gillen, this is your boy Albie Shore, and you have been listening to the Tortillas and Takes podcast, part of the 1012 Network. As always, stay wrecked, people.